My next hero, Dr. Megan Moreno. I have a house at times with 4 teens and 1 preteen, and Dr. Megan Moreno understands teens and studies them. And I do have your phone number, Megan. I could call you more frequently than I do. Dr. Moreno is a member of the Division of Adolescent Medicine at Seattle Children's Hospital and an associate professor of pediatrics at the University of Washington. She is the principal investigator of the Social Media and Adolescent Health Research Team, SMART. That's what it is, S-M-A-H-R-T, SMART. I mean, she is smart too, but that's what they call the team. Dr. Moreno's research focuses on ways in which technology can be used towards improving adolescent health with particular interest in social media. She is a member of the Washington chapter of the AAP and is on the executive committee of the AAP Council of Communications and Media. She is the lead author of today's new policy statement, Media Use in School-Age Children and Adolescents. And she's going to talk to us about yet more behavior change, media and high-risk teen behaviors. Dr. Moreno.
Thanks so much to everyone for sticking with us. It's just after 4 p.m. on Friday, and that means it's time to talk about teenagers. So I'd like to begin with bringing up something that came up earlier today, which is that this slide shows the 3 main causes of morbidity or mortality for our adolescent patients. Accidents, particularly motor vehicle accidents, homicide, and suicide. It's 2016, and this is what kills our adolescents. And unfortunately, as pediatricians, we don't have a test. We don't have a blood test. We don't have an MRI. We don't even have a perfect question we can ask to understand which of our patients are at risk for these outcomes. But what we do have is decades of research that have helped us understand the upstream risks that may place an adolescent at higher risk for these causes of morbidity and mortality. And these upstream risks and conditions are well known to you. They include substance use. They include aggressive and violent behaviors. They include alcohol. They include risky sexual behaviors and comorbid conditions such as depression and self-harm. We also know that decades of research on traditional forms of media, such as broadcast media, television, and movies, have shown us that adolescents who view and engage with these types of media that showcase these health risk behaviors are more likely to report intention or earlier initiation or higher rates of behaviors in these health risk behavior categories. We've known that for a long time. But now comes social media. So what would make social media different? Well, on this slide, you see there's many different types of social media, but across most of them, there are some key defining characteristics that they share. One is that they allow adolescents a platform for identity development. A second is that they provide a place and a space where adolescents can build and modify and view their social networks. And 3, they provide a format for communication and endorsement of each other's displays and behaviors. And when we think about the key tasks that adolescents are going through in their own development, they map pretty well onto the tools that social media provides them. Adolescents need to develop and build their own identities. They need to establish a peer network that's separate from their family. And they need to figure out how to communicate within that peer network and with adults. And so there's some differences when we think about social media and how adolescents view and create content around health risk behaviors. So I'd like to show you some examples of how health risk behaviors by adolescents are represented on social media. And what I want you to think about is what is the message and how is the message being conveyed? So for a first set of examples, we see these are text-based. These might be posts, these might be tweets, these might easily get modified into hashtags, and we can see that health risk behaviors are often discussed quite openly and quite cheekily, and in ways that might be humorous or memorable to adolescents. But adolescents don't learn just by reading, and social media offers adolescents other multimedia ways to view and engage and learn about health risk behaviors. So these include memes, which get passed around, they go viral, they represent a way of showing a social norm around a behavior. There's also downloaded icons that can be highly symbolic and feel very special to the adolescents that know the secret meaning of what those icons mean. There's personal photos that showcase behaviors in very clear ways, and even without text, can promote not just consumption, but overconsumption as a norm. There's posts that represent personal photos that don't even identify who you are. They just clearly identify the behavior and the community that you are seeking. There's photos that show health risk behaviors in the context of social relationships and romance and those connections that adolescents are seeking. And there's icons that show substance use or other risk behaviors in ways that are frankly just plain cool and that dovetail with the other key messages that the adolescents are seeing and hearing in mainstream media. And so why is this important? It's important because, as we can see, social media represents the potential as a highly influential source of health behaviors. We know that two key influences on adolescents during their development are peers and the media. And social media is peer-generated media. They're seeing role models that are not celebrities who they'll never see or meet, but who are attainable role models that's maybe the cool kid who lives down the street that they haven't really had a chance to talk to, but they can follow them on Twitter and do what they do. Another key piece that social media offers is the ability to reinforce those behaviors within your own profile. So when you log into your own Facebook profile and you look at your news feed and you're looking through your own content, it's reinforcing that content as part of your online identity, something that's part of who you are. And social media also offers the opportunity to be a teacher. You can Google how to do the cinnamon challenge, and it will show you step by step how to do it. You can Google how to go roof-topping, and it will show you on specific buildings where to go in, how to get up the stairs, and the best spot to take your selfie. So these are really important teachers. But before we go too far, I'd like to ask you all to stop and just take a breath, because I'm going to show you something shocking and amazing on my next slide. And what I'm going to show you is that adolescents also learn another key set of things from social media, and that is really positive and pro-social behaviors and connections. They see their peers and trusted adult role models posting about volunteering. They see visuals that represent diversity and unity and community. They have the opportunity to engage in school projects and take their learning home with them and dialogue about it using social media. They are able to build these connections and these incredibly beneficial behaviors. And so it becomes incumbent upon us, as pediatricians, to think about media as both as a tool, as neither positive nor negative inherently, but a way to guide parents and teens towards the most healthy use and interaction with this media. And so how do we do that? I think one way in which parents have become very nervous about having these conversations about media is they say, you know, I don't understand the difference between InstaFace and SnapMy. I don't know what it is. And so who am I to talk to my kid about how to be on social media? And one thing that I often think about is, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure how a carburetor works. I never really have been. But I'm going to be darn sure that I'm sitting next to my daughter when she's learning how to drive. And so one useful analogy to me when I talk to patients in clinic is thinking about driving. Driving is one of the top causes of morbidity and mortality for our adolescents. The risks of driving include injury and death from accidents, causing injury and death to others, as well as getting those legal citations for driving or parking that parents usually end up having to pay for. But the benefits to driving include having our adolescents get to new places, seeing new things, and being with friends. And when we think about driver's ed, it usually involves some initial didactic education. Maybe you have to watch some online videos, maybe you have to go to a class, and you learn the key pieces of knowledge. And maybe you practice with an online driving simulator to practice skill. And then when we turn adolescents loose to drive, we never turn them loose alone the first time. We have 6 to 12 months of practice driving with a parent by your side. But when we turn to the internet, we've had a concept that what happens online can't really hurt people. And so for many people, they allow their children to go online independently with no training. And what I often hear is parents will say, well, kids these days, they're so much better at technology than we are. But I think that downplays how much we have to offer kids in talking to them about safety and translating our offline values and our character onto that online environment. So I think the pediatrician's role is to encourage parents, to empower them to take that role as media mentors and role models to their kids, to encourage them to get the knowledge and skills that they need. And there's an abundance of tools. And some of my favorites are on common sense media, where younger kids can even go through an online certificate program to become licensed to drive on the internet. And then parents are present in the initial online experiences, and kids begin to build gradual independence with their parents still there, checking in for support once in a while. Just like when your 17-year-old is driving, you still drive with them once in a while to make sure that they're actually using their turn signals the way that you practiced. So I think one of my big messages for today is that we had built a wall between the online and offline worlds, and we've had some different standards of what we expect from people online and offline. And slowly over the years, as we come to be a society where our online experiences are woven into the fabric of what we do every day, we have needed to, and we need to continue to, break down those barriers between what we expect from people online and what we expect from them offline. I hope that what you'll see is that our new policy statements reflect this idea that media is woven into the fabric of our lives. It's woven into health for our kids. And what we need to do is provide a balanced look at what are adolescents and children doing with their media during the day. In the policy statement that discusses media use among school children and adolescents, the way that we've framed our recommendations are to start with the key health priorities that every teen and child needs every day: blocking out time for sleep, an hour a day of physical activity, time for school, time for homework with no media distractions, some unplugged time, and some times where media use is just not going to be happening for anyone in the family, like a family dinner or like when someone's driving. And then looking at the time left in the day, having communication and some mindful rather than reflexive decisions about how you want to use and share media. And thinking about using and sharing media that allows you to be creative, that allows you to develop communication, and sharing media with your parents so that you have these opportunities to communicate about some of the tough topics that kids are facing. I think another key piece of this is realizing that for us as pediatricians and for parents, they're not doing this alone. So developing trusted networks of adults who are also in these same online spaces and sharing these experiences. So there was a very eloquent question asked earlier about a tough situation where there was a tragedy in a community and the information spread on social media. And I believe the question got at the idea, how can we constantly monitor them online? And the answer is we can't. But we also can't monitor them constantly offline. But we can promote values and character development and healthy behaviors that should help adolescents bridge those experiences between the online and offline worlds. And I hope that some of those thoughts are take-homes as you think about how you'll talk with your patients and families about these media use policies and how they weave media into the fabric of their families when you see patients again on Monday. Dr. Cross will be showing you a mock-up of the family media use plan during our question period, and I'm hoping that will also show you that the tool is very easy to use, and it's really designed to promote communication and shared decision-making between parents and their kids, because we know that kids are more likely to follow guidelines where they've had a role in developing them and making decisions with their parents. I thank you so much for your attention, and I'm excited to move to the next stage of this discussion.